All right, so my name is Teresa Alexander, but yes, so some people do say Teresa sometimes. And this is me. I actually am a current PhD. I'm pursuing a PhD at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad. So I'm actually an hour ahead. So it's actually 12, after 12 now, where I am. And do you all know what a PhD stands for?
A doctor.
A doctor, yeah, a doctor in. So there's several kinds of doctors, right? So there's, well, not several, but there's doctor of medicine, and then there's a doctor of education, there's doctor of, so the PH stands for philosophy. So it's a doctorate in philosophy, and philosophy is basically just like a doctorate in medicine or a doctorate in, well, I should say a doctorate in education. It's one of the highest degrees you can get from university. And philosophy is more of the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality,
Is right there?
Pardon?
Is that you in that picture?
Yes, yes, that's me. That's me. So in plant science, I study cacao. Do you know what cacao is?
Cocoa.
Cocoa, yes, cocoa.
Is that where chocolate comes from?
Yes, yes, it is. So cacao is actually the tree. So we say cocoa all the time.
Wait, you're in Trinidad?
No, not in Trinidad, but in general. So in general, people say, well, the common term people say is cocoa, but the tree is called cacao, and the product that you get from cacao is called cocoa. But it is common for us to all say cocoa. I guess it's more, I don't know, right? So do you know what, besides chocolate, do you know what else you can get from cocoa products or cacao?
Chocolate tea.
Yes, chocolate tea. There's
White
also
chocolate.
It's also in cosmetic products. You know, like cocoa butter. Cocoa butter
Oh,
could be found in
you can make cigarettes.
cigarettes. I don't know about the cigarettes, but in cosmetic products you can find it in makeup or lipsticks, and in skincare like lotions, like cocoa butter lotion, things like that, right? So, you know, they say botany, but what I do is plant science, and under plant science, more into plant science, I do plant physiology. So plant physiology is under the umbrella of botany, and there's other things that comprise of botany, right? So do any of you want to tell me what you think botany is? Anybody?
It is the study of plants.
Say that again?
It is the study of plants.
The study of plants, okay. So it's sort of a general term to say the study of plants, yes. So it just comprises of a lot of different things that people study in plants. So it's like physiology, which is like the structure and function of plants, and genetics is more like the makeup of basically different molecules and things, and different biochemical processes that happen within plants. Ecology is more of the study of the people and the interaction with the ecosystem and plants. So plant physiology, well, let me start with ethnobotany. So ethnobotany is sort of how you study the region's plants and their practical uses through traditional knowledge of a local culture and people. So basically, if I was to just sum that up, have you heard of people using plants as for medicinal purposes to create medicines? No? Well, if not, that's what falls under ethnobotany. Plant pathology is when they study plant diseases and how you can improve the chances of survival for the plants. And then plant physiology, which is where I fall. I study the section of botany that's concerned with the function of the plants. And when I say physiology, I mean the structure and anatomy of the plant. So basically, I look at the different structures of a leaf or the stems, and I try to tie that into why the plant functions the way it does. Okay. Any questions?
No, miss.
No? Okay. So there are many routes, many, that you can follow, or paths that you can take to reach your end goal. And I'm going to start going into my story because this was my actual case. I took a few paths before I could figure out, you know, that plant science was the thing that I wanted to do as a career. So can any of you tell me what kind of STEM-based career you're thinking of doing for the rest of your life, possibly?
Computer engineering.
Computer engineering, okay. Anybody else?
Programming/coding.
You want to be a coder, you said?
A game builder and a website.
Oh, okay, okay. So I heard computers. Anybody else out of computers?
Well, yes.
Say that again?
A nurse.
A nurse, yes, okay.
I want to be a vet.
You want to be a?
A vet.
Wait, say that one more time.
A veterinarian.
Veterinarian, okay. All right. And okay, so in terms, like, how did you base why you wanted to be one of those things? Was it that
Robotic scientist.
a robotic scientist? So what did you see that made you want to be, or what did you do, or what kind of experiences you have that you decided that you wanted to do? Or one or two persons could tell me. When you, okay, so for the veterinarian, why did you decide that you wanted to be a veterinarian?
Because I love animals and I like to, the first time I went to a zoo, I liked it a lot there, and I wanted to become a vet because I wanted to know what job did with animals.
Okay, that's good, that's good. What about the guy who wants to create games? Why did you decide to do that? Who's the gamer? No? Or the computer engineer?
I also do gaming.
You also do games. So why did you decide that's what you wanted to do? Because you like to play games? Or?
I just have a passion for it.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually, I've actually heard that they have created it's sort of a sport now, gaming, and you can actually win medals for it in teams. But that's just me talking about that. But moving forward, so it's just to say, you know, when I was younger, I thought I wanted to do a specific area of something, and you know, along the way, I sort of changed my mind. But I didn't leave it behind. I still wanted to do it, but I still had other things that I fell in love with along the way as I went through school. So it's okay sometimes. I think sometimes people think, you know, I want to do this now, but when you're going through school, you might change your mind, and that's okay. It's okay to not have it all figured out right now, but it's important to really focus on what you love to do and seek training in that area. So it's good that, you know, girl wants to be a nurse or a veterinarian. You know why you chose that, because you love animals, or you love to help people, or you just have a passion for games, that's a good place to start, right? So, I'm in botany now, under this umbrella of botany, doing plant physiology, but I actually started in aviation. I love planes. I love everything about planes. I love the way it flies. I love seeing pilots. At one point in time, I really wanted to.
Miss, that pictures before I was born.
That's good. Yes, yeah. So yeah, I've been in aviation back in before you were born. So I really love planes, and I wanted to learn how to fly planes. I even skydived, which is the picture on the right, where we suit up, and we basically jump out of planes. But yeah, I wanted to, be a commercial airline pilot one day, and this is something that I've been wanting to do since I could remember. So when I had the opportunity after, while I was in secondary school, I focused on physics, because physics is, the physics of flight. It's necessary for you to have some type of concentration in physics if you want to go into aviation or aeronautics or aerospace engineering. And I did, I sort of focused more on sciences. I think I gravitated more to science and math since I was in primary school. So I just knew I love science. I knew I loved science, and I knew I loved planes, and I knew I loved working with my hands. And that's what I knew I loved to do. But during this period in my life, I realized, well, while I was doing this degree, that if I continued along the path of going into another higher degree in aviation, I would be sort of stuck in aviation, right? I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to go into another field of something if I wanted to study pure science or scientific research, or be a plant, or even just be a scientist in general. I would not have been able to sort of branch off into those areas, right? And becoming a pilot is very expensive, right? So those were the things that made me decide on moving forward, how should I go forward, knowing that it's expensive and it's costly, and I don't have the funds to do so. So that's an important thing to note. And so I decided when I was going into a bachelor's degree that I was going to go straight into physics, which was the science that I loved so much when I was in secondary school or high school for you. The guy on the left, Dr. Kitson Walters, is actually a Jamaican native. He is the one that sort of recruited me to come to go to Morgan State University for my bachelor's degree in physics. And so the professor on the right that I'm with, he was my advisor during the time that I was an undergrad.
Mentor.
Yes, a mentor, yes, while I was in my physics degree. So having a mentor is very important as well. So when you get to those levels, you should have at least one who can help you and guide you with your courses that you're taking, with the interests that you have. They are very good to have, right? And during that time, I went into, I knew that I love physics. I knew that I love to do scientific research. And so when I told you guys that, once you know what you love to do, you should go and seek training in that. So what I did was I went to seek training, right? So I found out about research, scientific research, when I was in college. Do you all have any idea of what the scientific research means, or what I'm talking about? Anybody? No?
Not really.
No? Okay, so scientific research So say, for instance, when you were in school, right? And you focusing on biology or chemistry or physics, that theory that you are learning in school is then applied to something practical that we use in society today, or something that we use to solve issues that we have in society today, right? So let me say, for example, as I'm in plants, let me talk about plants. So say, for instance, do you all know about the issues with climate change? You all have heard that term before? No? So for instance, in the Caribbean region, climate change could then heighten the environmental conditions, meaning that, so for instance, how, in the Caribbean region, we might have rainy season or wet or dry season. Say, for instance, the dry season period might be longer, so there will be less water. And what would be affected mostly by that? Trees, plants, agriculture, because there's less rainfall. And so plant scientists and even other scientists as well can come in now to sort of try to find a solution to that issue. So if I know that in 10 years, the climate would be much drier and it will affect agriculture, I can decide on trying to figure out a way to save the trees from possibly dying out 10 years from now. You understand? Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right, so this was one of my research opportunities in training to be a scientist while I was an undergrad getting my bachelor's degree. And this is at the point where I decided that I wanted to go into scientific research as a career, because I had such a great time during this STEM internship that it just sort of, science just blew my mind. Because, before when I said, it's a way of you applying what you learn in class into a real issue in society. I did not know that. I didn't know anything about scientific research and how it actually affects the world, right? And so once I started applying what I was learning in my classes into robotics. So this was a STEM internship where I learned how they created bio-inspired robots. And I decided from that point that I was definitely going to be a scientist. But at that point, I did not know what kind of scientist I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted to be a scientist. So this is me moving around from different PIs, they call them. It's called PIs because it stands for Principal Investigator. So every scientific lab has a principal investigator who is like the head person in charge of a lab. And then you have students within that lab that works there. And all the different students that are working under them may have different scientific research projects, right? So I dabbled in a few things. I went into robotics. I went into learning how insects fly. I did a bumblebee project. And then I fell into a plant lab where I learned about plant physiology, right? And so, just to reiterate again, in terms of getting into internships, seeking training is important if you want to be a scientist. And these were my opportunities to learn about science more and how to apply science to sort of develop my understanding of how to come up with ideas to solve real world problems, right? But during these times, you also find that you will meet incredible people from around the world, right? Where it's not just from the US, it's not just from the UK. You meet Caribbean people, you meet people from Australia, people from Asia, and it's not just, it's a learning experience. Yes, you learn about science and all that stuff, but you also meet great people. And then you learn about their research, and you may be even able to collaborate with them in the future if they do similar research, right? So Morgan State University, this was my graduation. The guy in the middle is actually also a native of Jamaica, and he recently graduated from the University of Connecticut with a PhD in organic chemistry. And the young lady on the right, she's also from Trinidad, and the others are from, one of them is from Kenya, and the other is a US native. But what I wanted to share here was that, you know, it's necessary for you to do well in your classes, right? Not just when you're coming from high school, but I'll go into that afterwards. But when you are in college, you know, you seek out and you decide that you want to be a scientist, you should still continue to, you know, be consistent with doing research, do very well in your classes. You have to maintain a high GPA, have to. So I was graduating with my bachelor's degree of science in physics. I had a scholarship award in physics. I was a Mark U Star Scholar, which is someone who does scientific research on campus. And because I was doing well in my classes, I was able to have free tuition through the Mark U Star program. I maintained my GPA above 3.0. And I also, yes, and I said I gained useful skills while doing scientific research. So it's very important to do very well in your classes, stay consistently ready for your classes. And because what that does is it does help you to keep your scholarship or to gain more funding to go through your degree program, right? Any questions so far? Everybody quiet?
No, miss, no question.
No? Okay. All right, so moving forward, after I graduated from Morgan, I went on to do a research fellowship at Harvard University. And again, because I had to do very well in my classes, that would then qualify me to be able to apply to these competitive programs, right? Everybody know what Harvard is, right? So it's a very one of the #1 institutions. Their programs are very competitive to get into. So you have to maintain. I don't think they went as far back as looking at your high school your high school information, but they definitely weigh your qualifications on your bachelor's degree. And then they also look at what you have been doing. They even would look at your classes and the grades in your classes. So you have to maintain just emphasizing again, you must do very well in your classes, maintain a high GPA above a 3.0, or even above a 3.5 if you can, and just do very well so that you can get into very competitive programs. And sometimes it's not necessary to always try to fight into these programs, but you should, because some of these programs are very, very well funded. And you don't want to keep going through your schooling having to put out a lot of money. That is because when you finish school, what do you think you would have to do? When you haven't been able to, at least get some funding or some grant money or something, you would end up with having to pay back a loan and then you just got your job, so now you have this added bill. So it's very important to be to keep on point with your studies and grab these scholarships, right? And here is when I in this lab in specific is when I decided to go into plant physiology. I was not someone who knew that I wanted to do plant biology at all. But I found my connection to plants again because I'm a tropical being. You know, agriculture is my life. You know, I've lived around plants all my life, and it's sort of doing that type of work, it felt like home, right? So that's when I decided to go into plant physiology. But of course, I chose to do tropical plants. And because I chose to do tropical plants, I ended up back at home in Trinidad as a UE student in plant science. And what happens is you can start off as a master's in philosophy student, and then you upgrade into a PhD program, or if you have a master's already, you can go into a PhD program to become a doctor of philosophy, right? So again, because you continue to do well in your classes, you seek, you know, these opportunities in the things that you love to do.
Wait, miss, may I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
If you discovered a new plant, what would you name it?
I discovered a new plant, what would I name it? I think it would depend on what I discover about the plant.
Okay.
So I don't know yet.
Name it after themselves.
Say that again?
Most people just name it after themselves.
Yes, after themselves for sure. But I don't know. I would definitely put some part of my name in it. But yeah, so when you think of plants, right? So say for instance, we say cocoa or we say cacao. You know, plants actually have a scientific name, right? So cacao is actually Theobroma cacao. So that is what the scientific name for cocoa, a cocoa tree is. So if I were to name a plant that I found, I have options. So I could either I could do something, but it's just to let you know that the scientific name is actually more than just the common name that you would see as well, right? So just to go in again with making sure that you do very well in your classes, I was able to attain a UE postgraduate scholarship, and that pays for my tuition. And so I don't pay tuition at all. And I also receive a stipend every month from the university for my living expenses, right? And I call it Cacao Physiology, which it enables me to work with tropical plants. This is why I love it so much. I love being in forest areas. I love nature, engage with Caribbean scientists and communicate scientists to the population that I really wanted to serve, which was my home, the Caribbean region and Trinidad and Tobago, right? So let's go into how you qualify for admissions into college, right? Or the PhD programs to become a scientist. When I was listening to one of your talks yesterday with the doctor, I think he told you all a bit, he gave you all a bit detailed information on that already. Again, you must do well in your classes. A levels, you can do the science route to get into college, because biology, chemistry, physics, and math all relate to plant science. I think a lot of people have the misconception sometimes that it's called plant biology and they think it's just purely biology. But there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of perspectives in physics, and there is math in plant science, trust me. Higher level math and higher level physics, if you want to be a plant physiologist. So you must maintain a good GPA. to get the grants and the scholarships. Have great letters of recommendations from your teachers. So if you do well in your classes, I'm sure your teachers would not hesitate to give you a great letter. You must write a story of yourself for admissions into college to talk about why it is you want to study there and what it is you want on the purpose of your study, right? It's similar for getting a doctorate in science. You must maintain your good college, good grades in your college courses. You must maintain a high GPA, right? You must seek training in scientific research. That helps you a lot if you want to go into a research program, right? A Doctor of Philosophy program. You basically want to become a scientist. So if you want to be a scientist, show me that you want to be a scientist. What have you done? Who have you worked with? What were your results? You know, what is the new knowledge that you have given to the global science community, basically? So show us that you are really interested in scientific research.
So Miss Alexander,
yeah,
we have another presentation, so I'm just asking if you could just wrap it up a bit.
Okay, sure. All right. So again, have great letters of recommendation from your teachers and your mentors. And again, your story and your reason for wanting to study there. Right? So the job market for a plant scientist is kind of, it can be interesting and it can be sort of way. So the Ministry of Agriculture, you could look at the Caribbean Agriculture Research and Development Institute, the Cocoa Research Center in Trinidad. There's somewhere I can work because I specifically work on cocoa. You can be a UE lecturer or a professor in biology or plant biology, plant physiology. That salary average, it's kind of hard to find some of these salaries, but the salary for a UE professor in Trinidad is an average about 30,000 TT dollars. I'm not sure in Jamaican dollars, but I can find that out. And the US Department of Agriculture, Food and Drug Administration. But I would say that I've seen, so one interesting thing that I've seen is that NASA also hires plant scientists. And they pay a very hefty sum for plant scientists because, interestingly, they use their satellites to collect data from trees on land to examine their behavior, right? One of the cool facts that some people don't actually know is sometimes they use air vehicles to assess plants. If you're familiar with a drone, you could attach equipment to a drone and they fly the drone around a cornfield or even a cocoa field. We have a project in that coming up soon. And you can basically collect data from the drone, the equipment that's attached to the drone, to then assess the behavior of plants in certain environmental conditions, right? And just as some, I have a video here, which I have actually done that. So I have used a drone to look at the wet season and the dry season in the cocoa forests in Trinidad.
Miss, you filmed this video?
Yes, I did. So you could, flying a drone isn't so hard, but all you do is you
I tried once, but I was surprised by its speed.
It's flying by its speed. Yes, but it's a great way to assess a vast span of land, right? You're not just looking at one tree, you can look at a lot of trees at the same time. And if you're fixed equipment onto that, you can also collect data from those trees, right? And just
but Miss, if you go too high, won't it lose the signal?
The signal, yeah, so there's a range, right? So there's different kinds of drones. Some could do more than others, right? For this specific one, I think it's 800 feet, I believe, 800 feet. So yeah, if you
once it loses signal, I think it turns off and starts falling to the ground.
Right, because there's a homing kind of mode where it can then start to come back to where it initially took off, right? So, all right, just to wrap up, because I have to go, because you have another presenter coming. All right, so thank you.
You're welcome, Miss.
Thank you. Thank you. If you all have any questions, anybody have any questions, you can ask me now.